Sharkie Gamer here. So today we're going to take a look at Star Wars The Old Republic gaming keyboard by Razer. So as that title suggests, this is a gaming keyboard that has a Star Wars The Old Republic theme to it. So firstly, let's take a look at the box. So up the top here, you've got the Star Wars The Old Republic logo, followed by gaming keyboard by Razer. Then going down, you can see there's some very cool artwork from the Old Republic. Looks pretty cool. Down in the corner here it says unlock a unique colored crystal to change your in-game weapon effects. Going over to the other side of the box, you have a display window here that gives you a sneak peek at the keyboard inside. Up the top you got the Razer logo, and going down you got a couple of the features here. 10 dynamic adaptive tactile keys, multi-touch LCD track panel, extreme anti-ghosting. Turning it over, you have the side of the box here, and it does outlay a couple of the extra features. So we'll just read some of these. Multicolor lighting, dynamic adaptive keys, multi-touch LCD track panel, 1000Hz ultra polling, on-the-fly macro recording, backlight illumination, macro keys. On the side of the box here, you just got a little bit of artwork, nothing too fancy. On the top, it's got the same sort of logos as well as some of the Windows requirements, etc. On the other side, it's got the artwork again. It just says wield the force. Turning it over onto the back, it shows you exactly what the keyboard looks like, and it points out some of the key features, and of course it also shows it in different languages as well. So these are just all different languages, the same features. So let's go through these key features here. So first thing it says here is Ouroboros lettering from the Star Wars universe etched on the keys, Razer Synapse 2.0 enabled, slim keys for faster actuation and shorter travel distance, gold backlight illumination on all keys, extreme anti-ghosting capability of up to 10 key presses, multicolor lighting, 1000Hz ultra polling, 1 millisecond response time, dynamic adaptive tactile keys for versatile skills management, multi-touch LCD track panel for new ways of game interaction. And it goes a bit more into detail of a couple of features here, which we'll just read. The first one here, 10 dynamic adaptive tactile keys. A true Jedi or Sith Master thinks quickly on their feet, adjusting force abilities and lightsaber stance to suit each fight. With the dynamically changing adaptive tactile keys on the Star Wars The Old Republic gaming keyboard by Razer, put more skills and macros within quick reach, so you're always equipped to emerge victorious from every battle. Multi-touch LCD track panel. A new interactive way to experience the world of Star Wars The Old Republic, with media player, interchangeable digital faction symbols, and much more. Vibrantly displayed on full-color LCD track panel, or toggle to multi-touch gesture mode, so you can navigate the game world more effectively. Extreme anti-ghosting. The Star Wars The Old Republic gaming keyboard by Razer features complete anti-ghosting of up to 10 key presses to let you further expand your repertoire of boss killing, flashpoint destroying, and world exploring macros and skills. With the ability to execute more than a single key command at one time, is an absolute competitive advantage for taking your game to the next level. So that's the back of the box. So now let's open this up and take a closer look at the keyboard inside. So bear with me a moment while I just pull this out of the packaging. Okay, so first off, you have some paperwork here. You have a quick start guide, which is pretty basic. It just goes through setting it up initially, and it comes in different languages too, so all those are different languages, so nothing too fancy. You do have a bit of cool artwork in the front, as well as in the back. It's pretty cool. Then of course you've got the congratulations from Razer for buying the keyboard, Synapse 2.0 advert. You get a screen protector for that LCD screen, so it protects it from scratches and everything like that. So that's quite a cool little thing they added, just to protect your screen. And of course you get two sticker sets here. You get one of course of the Razer logos, and you get the Star Wars faction symbols. So you can stick these on your computer or anywhere you like. Okay, so this is the Star Wars The Old Republic gaming keyboard by Razer. So as you can tell straight away, it's a pretty large keyboard. It's pretty large, but it is a very slim profile. If you look at that, it is a very thin keyboard. Very slim profile, not very high. That's the top of it. Underside, and you can see there's rubber feet here. And there's also these little feet where you can fold up to make it a bit higher. So if you fold those up and put it on a desk, it has a bit more of an angle to it. Fold them down, it sits a bit more flatter on your desk. So whatever you like to do, you can have them up or down, whatever you prefer. Okay, going into the connections. So as you'll notice, we have two USB connections here. And the reason there's two is because one is connectivity and the other is power. Because it needs enough power to power the lighting and the LCD, etc. That's why it has two. And you'll also notice it has gold plating on the outside there, and that's just for better connectivity, so it won't drop out or have disconnection issues because it's got better connectivity to begin with. Then here you've got a braided cable, which means it's basically stronger and it won't tangle as easily. So it's pretty cool that they've added, and plenty of length of cable too to run to your computer. Now as you notice, it's got the Star Wars The Old Republic theme to it, and to go even deeper into the theme, on each actual key there's the Aurabresh lettering from the Star Wars universe. So you can tell they've taken attention to detail and added that little bit of lettering on each key. And I'm sure Star Wars fans would appreciate that. So every single key has it. Okay, so going into the keys themselves. All these keys are pretty slim, as you can tell. They're not as tall as your normal keys on a standard keyboard. They're shorter because it basically reduces the travel distance, meaning keys are quicker to press as well as respond. Moving over to the other side here. At the top here, you've got your 10 dynamic tactile keys that they call, and these basically you can assign macros, basically for easy game skill management, or you can have Windows shortcuts, or different apps that actually come with this. Below this, you've got your multi-touch LCD track panel. This is basically to give new ways of game interaction. Firstly, it functions as a trackpad, and of course these two buttons down here, they function as your right and left click. And secondly, it functions as a second screen to access your apps as well as extra features, which I'll cover all that in more detail a bit later on in the video. Now, because there are so many features on this keyboard, I'll be covering both the software, Synapse 2.0, as well as the keyboard features together. So now, let's take a look at the software and the keyboard functions. Okay guys, I've hooked this up to my main computer, and now we're going to go into the keyboard features as well as the software, Razer Synapse, and how it adds customization to this keyboard. So let's start with connection of the keyboard first. So I've connected this to my main computer via actual powered USB hub, which you can just see right there. Both connections are plugged in, and this is a powered hub, so it is plugged in to power. Now what you'll find if you plug these two connections into a non-powered hub or into two non-powered USB ports, you're going to have issues straight away with the LCD screen and these buttons. Basically what usually happens, or what I've tested with a couple of non-powered ports, is lines come up on the screen, you get blurriness, it looks like it's almost distorted, almost like there's an issue with the screen or the buttons. If you have this, try plug it into a powered hub or other powered ports, because it's most likely that the keyboard's just not getting enough power and it's causing this issue because of that particular problem. So it definitely needs powered USB ports. Of course, when you plug it in straight away, the computer will install it, and then you need to download and install the Razer Synapse software, which is basically a cloud-based software that backs up your settings to an online account. So I've actually got this installed in front of me at the moment. Now going into the LED illumination. So as you can see straight away, it's got lighting. The keys themselves are actually gold looks pretty cool, very bright. And of course in a dark room, which my light is on at the moment, in a dark room it looks a lot more brighter, as well as this LCD panel and the tactile keys. Now you've also got a light going around the edge of the keyboard here, which looks pretty cool, and that light you can actually change, which I'll get into in a couple of seconds. So overall the illumination does look pretty cool, and all the keys are very easy to see. So how can you change the lighting in the software? Alright, let's go into the software just here. So this is the Razer software. If you want to change the lighting, you can just go to this lighting panel just up the top here. And all this does is allow you to change, firstly, the brightness of it. So I'll change this and I'll just point it down to the keyboard so you can see what's happening. So if I click off, the lighting will turn off. If I put normal, it goes to like a normal kind of brightness level. If I put bright, it'll go to the maximum brightness. So that is the maximum brightness, and it's pretty bright. I'll try to get close up here. So it's a pretty bright, and I mean if you're in a dark room, of course it looks a bit brighter. And of course you can turn the keyboard brightness on and off through the software. You can turn it off completely. Now with the actual color changing, the keys themselves stay gold. You can't actually change the color, but this bar going around the outside, on the bottom and the top, you can change the color on that. So you got two options. Going back to the software here, you firstly got color, which then you can select from this, or do a custom color here, and change basically from a whole choice of different colors. Or you can do spectrum lighting, which spectrum lighting basically means it just cycles through different colors and changes the color of the bar on the top and bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change some colors here, and I'll show it in action. So I'll just point this down. So I'll change it to, let's go blue, and I'll change straight away, as you can see. So that's what it looks like, blue. I don't know, let's try green. So that's green. Maybe a lighter blue. So it's going to a lighter blue, and they look very similar actually. Let's go to yellow. So that's yellow. Orange. So you kind of get the idea, and of course you can change it back to red if you like the red color. So you can change whatever color you like. And of course you can also set a couple of settings down the bottom of the software, which I'll just point this back up again. Just down here you've got two options. You can switch all device lighting off when your display is turned off. So if your computer goes on standby, or you turn your monitors off, turn your computer off, the actual lighting of the keyboard will turn off. If this is not turned on and you turn standby your computer or anything like that, the keyboard will actually stay illuminated, and so will the LCD screen. So if you know you're going to have your computer turned off, it's best to click this so you have that actually automatically doing it for you when the computer goes off. Next thing here, you've got in-game lighting effects. And now that's primarily uses when you're playing this with the Star Wars Old Republic. There are special in-game lighting effects. When certain things happen, the keyboard lights a certain way, just to sort of match what's happening in the particular game. So that's pretty much what the lighting setup does. So now let's go into key customization. So as you can see from this customization screen, it shows you every single key on the keyboard. And this is because every single key here you can actually customize to whatever you like. So if you click on any key you like, so let's click on R for instance, it comes up with a screen here, and at the moment it's default, so it just means it is the R key. But if you drop this down, you can change this to a keyboard function, a mouse function, a macro function, which basically means your custom macros. You can switch a profile, launch a program, multimedia, so that you play, pause, skip songs, etc., volume, Windows 8's charms, Windows shortcuts, or you can disable that button completely. And there's also a couple things like inter-device and etc. like that. So you can do a lot of different things. So at the moment it's a single key default, but you can of course change that to whatever was on the drop down list. Now with macros, if you want to do a macro, there's actually a macro area up the top here. And you come here and you can actually sit here and add a new macro, name it, record it, and you can of course record delays or say there's no delays. So you can just record a whole lot of keys that one button will trigger. So it's pretty cool, and that allows you a lot more extra customization of each identical key. Especially if you're playing a game that you particularly want macros for, because they're very handy things to have. Now of course, when you're actually saving this and customizing this, you can change your profiles just here. So at the moment I've only got one default profile there, but you can add more, you can delete them, you can say basically export and import them as well. You can copy them, so you can make a profile for each different game you're playing, so that you can actually customize everything if you want to actually customize that to your preference, record macros for a certain game, record different ones for another one. So completely customizable, and of course you can have a huge amount of profiles there so that you can switch between them whenever you particularly need them. So it's a pretty cool little feature. And of course, to support this customization, there are a couple of actual special keyboard buttons. So we'll go back down to the keyboard now. So firstly, I'll just kind of zoom out a little bit here. Okay, so firstly we have a couple of different things. So up the top here, you've got a little group here of special buttons. So we'll look at them first. So firstly, you have an on-the-fly macro record button, which of course is that M, which stands for macro. And that actually works the same as this one up here. So if you press that one up there, it comes to this little screen where you can record your own macros. So you can press record and then press the keys and then press again. Now of course this key here, you can activate the same thing. If we press this, it goes to the same thing on that screen. The next one next to that is called game mode. Now that G key is called game mode, and that's actually a very cool little feature. What game mode does is it actually disables certain buttons so that when you're in a game you're not accidentally pressing them. So if you press this, it actually comes up on the screen here, gaming mode, and the same thing, I'll just go back, the same thing is done if you press that. So that and that do the same thing. It takes you to gaming mode here, which basically allows you to, I don't know if you can even see that, it says Alt Tab, Alt F4 and the Windows key. So you can actually disable those, so when you're in a game, if you press your Windows key, which is just down here in the corner, or you press Alt F4, Alt Tab, then the game will not be minimized or closed or anything like that. So it's just a way you can disable it so you're not accidentally pressing anything that you think, oh crap, you know, I've pressed something and it's minimized my game. So that just stops that completely. And the next key here is actually the Razer Blade home button, which you've seen me use basically when you're in a function on the screen here and you press it, it goes back to the front there. So whatever you're in, you press it, it takes you right back to the front screen. So it's just a little handy thing that helps you get back to where you need to be. Of course, the next keys are your 5 macro buttons down the side here. So down the side here, you've got basically 5 extra keys additionally to your main keyboard keys, and these just allow you to record your own macros to these keys, so that you don't have to change anything if you don't want to. You just want 5 extra on this side, you can just add those 5 extra there. Now, of course, this keyboard also has an FN key, which is just down here, just says FN, and that just adds extra functions to some keys up the top here. So firstly, on this side, you've got some volume controls, like your volume up, down, mute. You got media controls, so your play, pause, you know, fast forward, rewind type things. Print screen, pause, break, and of course you've got adjust brightness there, which are your just brightness of the keys themselves. And another thing you can, from the numbers 1 up to 0, you can change between profiles 1 to 10. So if you press FN and 1 or 0 or anywhere in between, you can change between profile 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you can completely adjust your profiles on the fly and switch between multiple games or multiple profiles, even if you have multiple profiles for a particular game. So it's a pretty cool little thing, and it just adds a little bit of extra function to it. Now, of course, going into the side, you've also got these 10 tactile adaptive keys, and they're pretty cool. You can see, I'll try to get the light so it doesn't reflect on them. You can see at the moment they've all got the default icons on them, which these are just the default that actually come with it. If you look at it in a weird angle, you can't really see the keys clearly. There we go, that looks pretty clear. Basically, and by the way, the camera is not really doing justice to these keys. These keys actually come up very nice and clear, and it's just the lighting reflecting on this. They look much better in front of you than what they do on the camera right now. But these are pretty cool. These keys basically allow you to either have macros or apps themselves assigned to them. So by default, you can assign 10 commands that you might use in a game. Basically, you can do that when you press this button up here. It goes to the standard thing, and it has your main 10 buttons up the top here, which you can assign a macro key to, so you can assign them anything. And the cool things about these keys in particular is, of course, you can assign icons to them. So at the moment, they just got, of course, 1 to 0, like your default number keys up the top here. But you can actually assign custom icons to these keys. So just put this down and go back up here to the actual software. I'll show you some of the icons you can actually assign to them. So what you need to do is come here to these numbers and press one of them. And of course you come up here and you can assign your default kind of action to it. but you can also change the icon by coming here and go change. And by default it comes to my icons, which you can assign your custom icons if you have any icon files on your computer. Otherwise you can go for the ones that they include. So first you got Battlefield 3. So these are some Battlefield 3 icons they give. Dragon Age Origins, Firefall, Mass Effect 3, Rift, and of course Rift has multiple categories. So you got Archon, Assassin, Bard, Beastmaster, Blade Dancer, another one, Champion, another one, and it keeps going. So there's tons of this one. I'll just quickly click through so you can see what they look like. There's absolutely heaps of icons for this game. Now if you drop down here, we can also go to Star Wars The Old Republic. And of course, first off you've got Bounty Hunter, Imperial Agent, Jedi Counselor, Jedi Knight, Miscellaneous, Sith Inquisitor, Sith Warrior, Smuggler, and like Rift it keeps going. So you've got Trooper, and that's that. And of course if you come here right down the bottom of the games list, you go to default, it just shows you those number icons as well in case you want to change it back to that. But yeah, you can choose a lot of different icons here from whatever you want. You select it, it changes the icon, you assign your key to it, and then when you come down here, it'll actually show that icon on this key itself. So instead of thinking, okay, what does number 1 do again, you've actually got an icon of whatever task you've actually assigned to that key. So it's a pretty cool little feature and allows you to completely customize this area here with 10 basically apps that you can, 10 macros or apps or whatever that you can actually access easily while you're in a game. Now going into apps themselves, since I haven't really covered apps much, this actually supports different apps to work on the LCD panel. And with apps you can set up basically over 10 pages of apps with the tactile keys, and they work with this basically LCD screen as well. So first let's have a look at apps and then we'll go into the LCD screen and how the apps work with that screen. So going back up to the software here, if you come up to apps just up top here and you go yes, it'll bring this apps window up here. So by default you've got page 1 and you've got some here, and you go here, you've got page 2. Now I've actually added some of these in here which I'll show in a moment, but of course you have multiple pages you can add, and with each page you got these apps down here. Now most of these apps you just download, you can say get more apps and just download them all, and of course they release apps every now and again. There's not a huge amount of apps, but I mean there's enough to keep you busy. I mean there's extra apps like Photoshop and Premiere, you got Spotify, Twitch TV, Windows 8 shortcuts, Steam Chat, Star Wars Old Republic Combat Logger, and stuff like that. So you got tons of stuff, and you got different trackpads. Like at the moment I've loaded Battlefield 3 trackpad, you got a Counter-Strike trackpad, League of Legends, Team Fortress 2, and I've got a virtual joystick, Skyrim trackpad, and I've got a system monitor here as well that I've loaded. So I've loaded these and I'll show a bit more into those there. But you've got quite a few apps to choose from, and of course you can have multiple pages, just configuring what type of apps you want to assign to it. So by default, of course, you've got the trackpad, you've got like a numpad, you've got the macro recorder, gaming mode, you've got a Razer browser, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Gmail, as well as a clock. And on the other side you've got media player, game timer, and of course you've got a screenshot. So you've got all these different things just there. So it's pretty cool. So getting out of this and going back to the keyboard itself. So with the apps themselves, you use these keys to trigger those particular apps. And these actually work alongside with this actual screen. So going into the LCD screen, before we go into the apps in detail, the LCD screen itself works in 2 different ways. So firstly, it works as a standard trackpad. So I'm just going to go out here and show both the actual screen as well as, because it works as a standard trackpad. You can see I can move my mouse around without actually using my mouse. I can actually just use this as a trackpad. So if you're using this on a laptop, you can just use this instead of having a mouse connected to it. So it works well as a trackpad. The second way, it works as a second screen for running apps, basically running and viewing extra apps. And like I said, the default apps, which I'll just go through and show you what they look like on the screen here. I'll try to get it a bit better here. So firstly, if you press this one, that comes up with a default trackpad with the macro keys. You go back home. Next one, you've got basically a numpad in case you would like a numpad. And of course, you've got more keys up the top there. Next one, of course, is the macro recorder, which we briefly showed audio, which allows you to record macros on the fly. Next, of course, is your gaming mode, which allows you to disable or enable certain keys. And up top here, you've got your Razer browser, which actually connects through your internet connection on your computer, and it loads by default the Razer website first up. But of course, you can type your own address. You can press this up and go right there. You can see by default, and I'll try to get this a bit more in focus. It says razerzone.com just there, but of course you can use you can press there, and then you can use the backspace, get rid of that, and actually type your own website. So you can type whatever you like and go to whatever website you particularly like. Next up is of course YouTube, which will probably just take me to the login, which I think it usually does. Yeah, so Google login. Facebook, which will also take to the login screen. Twitter, again, will take the login screen. And of course you've got Gmail here. And you've also got like a game timer here, which is basically a clock as well as a stopwatch. Now of course we had multiple pages. So how do you actually switch between the first page and the second page without actually going into the software and playing around with it? Well, this trackpad not only supports your normal touchscreen and normal tracking with like a mouse, but it also supports actual gestures. So actually certain like 2-finger or 3-finger gestures. So firstly, to switch between the next apps, you use 3 fingers and you basically just pull across the screen, and you notice it just switches it, and you go back the other way. It's almost like pulling and dragging across, because if you swipe too much, it's actually not going to pull that over. So you actually got to pull and drag across to do it. And the next thing, of course, you have other gestures as well. So other than the trackpad, you've got your 2-finger, so if you go up and down, you can scroll. Of course, you can turn like this to rotate. If you're particularly in something, you can rotate. And you can do this to pinch and expand, which of course zooms in and zooms out of that particular page. Now that we've seen the first apps, let's also go into the second page of apps here. Firstly, of course, you've got Media Player, which will just take you to Media Player and play some music, which I won't do. Of course, you've got a Game Timer here, which goes into Game Timer. Up here, you've got a Screenshot, which just allows you to take a screenshot of basically your screen. Next thing, you've got a System Timer, which is going to load what my system's doing at the moment, which is not doing much. It's just recording. So you can see it shows CPU, you can go hard drive, it shows kind of hard drive activity, it shows your RAM activity, you can do all different ways and stuff like that, your time, CPU, so it's just a system monitor. The next thing, of course, is one of the first custom trackpads and buttons. You've got a Skyrim trackpad and that, so of course you've got a Skyrim logo there, Skyrim icons, so it just makes it easier to play the Skyrim game, and of course you can customize this all as well. Battlefield 3, and this actually has multiple classes, so you can actually choose one. So if we choose Assault, it automatically puts this loadout for an Assault basically game, so if you're playing that particular character. Then of course you've got Counter-Strike, and again, you choose which type of Counter-Strike game. Counter-Strike, CS Source, or CSGO. So you go CSGO, it says Counter-Terrorist or Terrorist, and you can choose which one you want, and I'll change the picture as well as the keys themselves. Next is League of Legends, and again the same sort of thing. You can choose your champion, and basically it'll give you a loadout for that particular champion. Next, of course, is Team Fortress, and once again it gives you a class, you choose what you want, gives you a trackpad, and it gives you a loadout, so it's pretty cool. Next thing, of course, that I've put here is a virtual joystick, and I think this is actually pretty cool. So this is like a virtual joystick that you can use in games. You can see it moves around, and you can also press the different keys just like you would do on like a gamepad. So it's pretty cool. It's a virtual joystick, obviously, so using the touchscreen controls, but I mean, for what it is, it's pretty cool little extra thing that you can use in case you don't feel like going up and finding a gamepad and plugging a gamepad into the computer. So it's a pretty cool little extra that's included. Now, of course, with this track panel itself, you can change settings for it. You can change the logo, you can change the wallpaper, you can change the background, or you can change the sensitivity. And the easiest way to do that is on the software itself, which I'll just go up here. On the software itself here, you just go to here, and you're going to change the logo, load your custom image, change your sensitivity, change the acceleration, so you can pretty much do all this through the settings as well to the exact requirements you want, how sensitive you want it, etc. And of course this trackpad also has track buttons just here, so that's of course your left and right click that you can actually use while you're actually using the program. So if I just go out here again, I can just come here and go to right here, settings, lighting, and I'm just basically using this. And you can also tap as well, that also clicks. So it works just like a normal trackpad on a laptop, but it just adds extra functionality because of course you can use that tactile buttons as well as LCD screen. And you can imagine the use of this, basically say you're in a game and you're just playing something and you think, oh, I'm stuck, I need to look up something, how do I get past this point? You can actually just bring up the Razer browser on the screen and look up something. So it's a pretty cool little thing, and you use it just like you would do it as a mouse. You scroll down, you can actually go to different apps. Same if you're playing online with, say, Battlefield 3 or something, you can go straight in there and your class that you prefer to play as is already loaded out as the most optimal features, so you can just easily access any feature that you want to access. So it's a pretty cool little thing, and it's very customizable. You can customize all of that, and you can just easily switch between the different pages like that. And of course you can just add like 10 pages of apps and 10 pages of loadouts. And of course there's more and more apps that Razer releases, and other companies I think are also releasing different apps for this keyboard, so you just have to keep an eye out when those apps are actually released. But like I said, with this macro function you can just customize those keys to the exactly way that you want, so that way you can have your own loadout for your own particular game. So whatever game you enjoy playing the most, and of course save multiple profiles so that you can just easily switch between them and not have to go back and configure it. So overall, when you're actually working with this keyboard, not only does it look pretty cool, the lighting looks pretty awesome, very clear to use, typing's very easy, but the software is very easy. The Razer Synapse software, very easy to actually customize everything you want. All your customization is right here at your fingertips, and it takes effect pretty much immediately once you've changed it. So yeah guys, that was the Razer Synapse software as well as the Star Wars keyboard features. So now we've covered the features as well as the software, let's go into the performance of the keyboard. How does it work with general everyday computing, and how does it work with gaming? So let's go talk about that now. Okay, so now going into the performance of this keyboard. So first, with everyday typing. Typing comes out smooth and keys respond immediately. Now it does take a little bit of time to get used to the keys due to the fact that they are low profile, but no more than most gaming keyboards. Now the keys themselves only make minimal noise, so when you're typing, the noise is not going to bother you or get in your way while you're gaming or doing anything particular on your PC. Another thing I've noticed with the keys is the tabs and caps lock seem to have a little bit more of a padded feel to them in comparison to the other keys, but they both respond equally as well. And I think they've just done this so that when you're gaming you can go by feel and actually feel the tab and caps lock, because they feel different than the rest of the keys, so you don't have to physically look down at your keyboard. Going into gaming, this keyboard performs well in all games. Your keys respond perfectly. Both your macros and your tactile keys give you more ease of access for additional commands and functions, and this multi-touch LCD panel allows you to look up something on the net while you're in a game, or use one of the additional apps to either help with the game or add extra functions to the keyboard itself. Now the keyboard is very customizable, and by far it adds more extra features than most gaming keyboards. So overall this is a great gaming keyboard. It can be used on your desktop PC or even with your gaming laptop, as this has a built-in trackpad. So you don't necessarily have to connect a mouse to your laptop if you just want to use your laptop for kind of everyday stuff. Of course, if you want to game on your laptop, then you probably should plug in a gaming mouse. Although having said that you can use a trackpad for a mouse instead of an actual physical mouse, This keyboard actually pairs up great with the Razer Star Wars mouse and mouse mat. Just makes a great set for kind of any Star Wars fan. So this performs well with your gaming, typing, or just using this LCD screen for the apps or whatever you're using the LCD screen for. Some improvements I can think of that this keyboard could use and would possibly improve it overall. The keys themselves, the backlit color, it would be nice to change the color. Like the gold does look pretty cool, as you can see, but it would be nice to change that color, because I reckon if you had a bit of a choice between that, then you could actually do a bit more customization to it. Another thing that could be improved is with the LCD panel here. I noticed that some apps can be a bit sluggish, and that's mainly the browser. I find it loads a bit slow and it can just be a very sluggish, so speed would be nice if they could improve the speed of the apps. Next, of course, is this thing requires 2 powered USB ports to actually power the keyboard enough to work properly. Of course, if you don't have the powered ports, then of course you might have issues with the LCD screen here, or the buttons, they look a bit lined and blurry and stuff like that. So, I mean, it would be nice if they could run on 2 normal ports instead of having to power it, but of course this is a high-powered keyboard and compared to some other keyboards. Now, the keyboard itself does look pretty cool, as you can see. It's got a very cool Star Wars theme to it. This is absolutely perfect for any Star Wars fan or collector. Now, of course, the last big down point is the price. This Star Wars keyboard is pretty rare now, and it's getting very hard to find, so expect to pay probably over $300 for a used one, that is, and you are very lucky if you can find this with its original box. You just don't see them with the original boxes that often. And this is because Razer discontinued these, so eBay is your pretty much best bet to find one, and most of the ones you see are second-hand. I know there are some eBay sellers that have these new, but they want a ridiculous amount for which this keyboard is just not worth that amount. So around $300 you're looking at paying one of these things. Now you can still buy the unbranded Desktop Ultimate keyboard from Razer, which is exactly the same as this keyboard, except it does not have the Star Wars branding on it. And the Desktop Ultimate sells for around $150 to $200 depending on condition, so if you buy used or new or whatever the condition is. So is this keyboard worth that amount of money? Because it is a lot of money for a keyboard. Well, it is a great keyboard and it has a lot of extra features, but unless you particularly want a keyboard that has this LCD screen that also acts as a trackpad as well as a second screen to run apps, then you probably really don't need this keyboard. The biggest reason to get the Star Wars branded version at this point in time comes purely down to collector's value, because these keyboards seem to be going up in value at this time, and I think that's mainly because Star Wars fans and collectors are snapping them up and it's putting the price up, because Razer discontinued them, so you just don't see them anymore, and of course when you don't see them the price slowly starts to go up because they're harder to get a hold of. So if you want the multi-touch panel LCD and its features and you love Star Wars, then get this keyboard. Absolutely, without a doubt, this is awesome for any Star Wars fan. But if you like the idea of the keyboard but don't really want the Star Wars branding because maybe you don't want to spend the extra money, then of course you can get the unbranded Razer Desktop Ultimate, which is exactly the same, just does not have the Star Wars branding. Otherwise, if you don't want the LCD altogether, you don't think you really want an LCD screen whatsoever, you don't want the apps, you don't want any of that like that, then you should probably save the money that you would spend on this keyboard and go for a standard mechanical Razer gaming keyboard, as that should be fine for all your gaming needs and it can save you basically a bit of money. So you can get the same sort of features in terms of gaming, but you just take away that LCD screen and you're still getting a great gaming keyboard if you get a mechanical. But if you want an LCD, then absolutely this keyboard has that function for you, has a lot of extra features, and of course this particular version has that very cool Star Wars branding. So yeah guys, that was the Razer Star Wars The Old Republic gaming keyboard. A very cool, very collectible item now. But it looks really awesome when you set this up with the gaming mouse from Razer as well. The Star Wars mouse and mouse mat. Looks pretty cool. Now I have the other Razer gear up on my channel. So far I've done the Star Wars mouse and mouse mat, and I'll be doing the headset, and that'll be up probably in the next couple of days or so. So don't forget to check that out if you're interested in any of the other Razer Star Wars gear. But otherwise guys, thanks for watching. I am Sharkie Gamer. Don't forget to subscribe, as I'll have heaps more gaming controller and accessory videos up very shortly. As always, if you like this video, hit that like button, and of course feel free to leave a comment down below. And share and favorite, as that helps spread my video around. Anyway guys, Thanks for watching.